Hi, I'm Tanya and welcome to my channel. And this video is a response to a student request. So we're going to be covering yoga for hamstring relief. So before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about hamstrings and what we're going to be covering in this video. So a lot of times when we think about relieving our hamstrings, we're thinking about hamstrings that are super tight. That could be just that you have always had tight hamstrings, or perhaps you focus a little too much on muscle building or weightlifting or deadlifting, and you've got really tight hamstrings in response to that. So we're going to cover a lot of stretches to help you with that. The other side of the coin where we sometimes need a little bit of relief in our hamstrings is because they're overstretched already. So if you have a type of job where you sit a lot at a desk, or you just have a lifestyle where you're a little more sedentary than active, sometimes those hamstring muscles are already a little overstretched. And so what you need to do is to strengthen them, and that way you can find a little bit of relief that way. So this video, we're going to cover a little bit of both. So we're going to cover some stretches to help you get some relief if you've got tight hamstrings, and then we're going to cover some very gentle and easy strengthening exercises so that you can kind of counteract if you already have those over lengthened hamstrings from your lifestyle that you live. So I'm going to go through these things rather slowly, explain what we're doing. You might find a belt and a block helpful. They're not necessary, but the strap or the belt, either one, might be helpful if you fall more on the side of having really tight hamstrings. The same with the block. They'll just help you provide a little bit of length so that you can reach the ground. But again, they're not necessary, but if you have them, you might find them helpful. So just go ahead and toss them off to the side. And then we'll get started in any sort of seat with a little bit of breath work. I'm sitting on a block, so I have my block widthwise, and I'm sitting here with my knees together in a meditation seat. If that hurts your knees, any comfortable seat is fine. So go ahead and lengthen up through your spine. Begin to engage your core a little bit, just so that you're nice and supportive. So you should still have full use of your lungs and capacity here, but you just want to be nice and supported. Release your shoulders, and then just find a nice neutral head position. And then we're just going to do some belly, ribs, and chest breathing. So inhale, expand your belly, expand your ribs, and open up all the way up to your collarbones. Hold at the top, and then exhale everything out, and pause at the bottom. Again, inhaling in, filling up the belly, the ribs, the upper chest. Hold at the top, and then exhale everything out and hold at the bottom. Do that twice more. Inhaling in, filling up the belly, the ribs, and the chest. Hold at the top for 3, 2, 1, and exhale everything out. Pausing at the bottom. And last one, inhaling in, filling up through the belly, the ribs, all the way up to the upper chest. Hold at the top for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale, release. If you close your eyes, you can flutter them open. And now we'll just find a normal pace of breathing. So inhaling, expanding the lungs, and exhaling, drawing them together. And again, inhale, expanding the lungs, and exhale, drawing them together. All right, from here, we're going to move on to our hands and knees, so you can lift your bum, remove your block if you were seated on one, and set it off to the side. So you want to find some alignment here. Hands are going to come underneath your shoulders, and knees are going to come up underneath your hips. And then we're going to take kind of a half child's pose here. So you're going to extend your left leg out to the side, and then place it kind of rotate it out to the side so that the pinky toe is on the ground as well as the big toe. And then we're going to send our hips back. So it's like a child's pose with a single leg hamstring stretch. So you're going to crawl your arms forward and then release your head and neck down towards the mat. Now, you may be more here, which is fine. I want you to find wherever it is along this pose that you find a little bit of stretch in your hamstrings, but you're not overstretching them. So hamstrings are one of our muscles that are prone to overstretching, just from the nature of how they're made and where they're located. So we can do a little bit of damage, particularly when we're not warm. So you want to make sure that you're kind to your body and responding accordingly. One more breath here. And then lifting the chest, bringing the shoulders back into alignment over the wrist, and step the left leg back in. And then just into the other side. So right leg out to the side, and then drop the pinky toes down. Send the hips back. And again, anywhere along this line, hips can stay high. They can come all the way down. Crawl your hands forward and take a few breaths here. Try this one-legged child's pose. Finding your breath here. Inhaling and exhaling. And we'll be here for 3, 2, and 1. Lifting back up, back into this tabletop. Then right leg's gonna step back down. All right, next pose, we're gonna send our left leg long behind us, flex the foot, and then a little bit of an internal rotation. So think about dropping the pinky toe down towards the ground, and then just lower the toes all the way down. And then we're gonna shift our weight back just nice and gently. So you should feel a little bit of a stretch all along the back side of the leg here. Couple of breaths here. Last one. And then shift back forward so shoulders are right over wrist again. And then hover this left leg up. So you want to find where it's about parallel to the ground, but then engage your core. So sometimes what we find is that we dump down and our heel lifts a little bit. So core is engaged, leg is nice and long. And then we're just going to take some pulses. So some gentle strengthening exercises here. You're just going to pulse the leg up and then back to parallel. So you're just lifting up an inch or so and then back down. And again, up and back down. And last one, up and back down. So we're landed back parallel to the ground. And then we're going to extend our right arm forward, like we're shaking somebody's hand. So palm is in. Inhale, find a little bit of length between this heel and your right fingertips. And exhale, you're going to touch your knee to elbow underneath you. Inhale, nice and long. Exhale, knee to elbow. 3 more times. Inhale, find some length. And exhale, knee to elbow. Inhale, find your length. Exhale, knee to elbow. And last time, inhale. And exhale. All right, from here, hand and knee down to the mat. And we're going to switch sides. So right leg's long behind you, flex the foot, a little bit of internal rotation. So pinky toe towards the mat, and then set your right foot down on the mat. And then very gently shift your weight back. So you should feel a nice stretch along the back side of the leg here. Breathing nice and intentionally. Last breath. And then shifting back forward so shoulders come right back over wrist. Hover the right leg off. Or not off, but up. And then we'll find those pulses. So just lifting the leg and lowering it back to parallel. And again, lifting the leg and back to parallel. And make sure, again, your core stays nice and tight here. So we're not dumping down, we're just moving the leg. Isolating the movement. Inner leg, last one. And then we're going to move on to that bird dog pose again. So left arm forward. So find your length between heel and fingertip. And then exhale, knee to elbow underneath you. Inhale, nice and long. Exhale, knee to elbow. Inhale, nice and long. Exhale, knee to elbow. You've got 2 left. Inhale. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. Now hands and knee down on the mat. Back into this tabletop pose. Curl your toes under, and we're going to make our way to down dog. So you can send your hips up and back. Now, if your heels don't touch the mat, they may be lifted. And if your hamstrings are really tight, you can put a little bit of bend in your knee. What that allows you to do is lengthen through the spine so that your tailbone can come up and back. And then as you warm up, or perhaps with time, you can begin to straighten your legs or lower your heels down. So wherever you're at, I want you to lift your heels up towards the sky with your inhale nice and high, and then exhale, lower and back down towards the ground. It's okay if they don't touch. And again, inhale, lift, and exhale, lower. Twice more. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower. Last one. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. From here, we're going to find a forward fold. So just walk your feet up towards the front of your mat. They can land about hips width apart. Put a little bend in your knees. And then release your chest down. You can grab opposite elbows and release your head and neck. So even if you can straighten your legs and fold all the way down, that can be a little intense. So I recommend keeping just at least a little bit of a gentle bend in the knees. And if you're on the tighter side, it may be a little bit more than a gentle bend, but that's fine. With some time, you'll find that you can get a little more straight. But the gentle bend just keeps those of us who have hyperextension from doing that, because that can create damage as well. 2 more breaths here. And then we're going to add a little bit of a twist. So release the hands down, and you're going to grab opposite leg. So left hand can come to right leg. Try to keep the hips square and send the right arm and right shoulder up towards the sky. Inhale. And then exhale, unwind, right hand comes across to left leg, left arm up. Again, hips work to stay square. Inhale, and then exhale, unwind. From here, we're gonna roll nice and slowly all the way up to standing. And then step your feet together. Take a breath here, inhale, and exhale. And we're gonna find a little bit of flow here. Again, focusing on our hamstrings. So inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, lift up halfway, flatten your back. And exhale, fold forward. Again, you can keep this bend in your knees. We're gonna find a low lunge here. So you're gonna step your left foot back towards the back of the mat and then come down onto your knees. So this is a low lunge. So you've got some options here. If you've got your blocks, you can put your blocks underneath your hands to lift your chest. If you don't need them or want them, the other option is to bring your hands onto your quads. So this is really more of a quad stretch, but we're going to pair it with some movement to get in our hamstrings here. So before we do that, I want to make sure that your knee isn't past your ankle. So creep your right foot forward just a little bit if you need to. And then maybe send your arms up overhead. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. And then exhale, you're going to shift back and find a half split. So hips come over left knee, flex your right foot. Inhale, back up to low lunge. And exhale, hips come back, half split. Flex the right foot. Couple more like that. Inhale, if the arms are too much for you, exhale, half splits. You can leave them on these blocks and just walk them forward and back a little bit. So inhale and exhale. We're going to take one more round. Inhale and exhale. So we're going to land in a half split here. Flex the front foot. So you can bring your hands down to blocks. You can have your blocks on any height, or if you want to, your hands can come all the way down to the ground. So wherever you're at is fine. And I want to make sure that you can have a nice straight back. So sometimes we hunch over because we feel like we're getting a little bit further with our progress, but we're not actually doing anything to help our hamstring. So instead, lift your chest up a little more, flex your foot, try to find a nice straight back, and draw this right hip back. So we're not coming into these kind of cheerleader splits, but right hip is back, so hips are even and neutral. Keeping your right foot flexed, we're going to add a little bit of movement. So just open the toes towards the side. So like we're dropping the pinky toe down towards the ground and then back through to center. And again, opening to the side and then back through to center. We'll do this 3 more times. Open to the side and then to center and to side and to center. And last one to the side and then to center. All right, so now we're going to open it to the side. We're going to leave it there, And we're gonna add a little bit of a twist. So you're gonna bring both hands, you can take your blocks with you if you're using them, and bring them onto the outside of the right leg. So foot is open to the right, and that movement is initiating at our hip joint. So it's not just our foot that's moving, but it's the whole leg that's opening. And then you're bringing the arms onto the outside, to the right side. Try and keep your length in your spine. And it's a little bit of a twist here. So you're gonna still feel it in your hamstring, and then you also might feel it a little bit in your IT band. Couple of more breaths here. Last full breath cycle. All right, and then unwind. You can use those blocks if you want to. Come back. So toe and hip come back to a neutral position. And we're gonna wake our way back to the front of the mat. So shift your weight forward, coming back into this low lunge. Hands can come down on the mat. Lift your left knee, and then just step forward, forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stand up, arms sweep up. And exhale, hands can come to heart. All right, before we move on to the other side, I just want you to take notice of how your right leg feels. It should feel pretty different than your left leg right now. And hopefully you got a little bit of relief. So we'll move on to the left leg now. Arms come up, inhale. And exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, lift up halfway, find a flat back. Exhale, fold. A little gentle bend in the knee, and this time, right foot takes a big step back, and we'll find that low lunge. So right knee can come down, and then again, you've got those options. So hands can come to your quads or to your blocks, wherever you're more comfortable. So before we move, I want you to make sure that this knee isn't past the ankle. So crawl this left foot forward a little bit if you need to, and then shift your hips forward, lift the chest up. So you want to keep the hip points lifted up so the lower back has a lot of room, it's nice and long. And then if you want those arms can come up overhead. And then we'll add that movement. So inhale here, exhale, shift back, lift the toes, flex the foot, hands come back by your hips. Inhale, back to low lunge. Exhale, shift back. Couple more, and again, you can use your blocks instead of the arms. Inhale. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. Last round. Inhale. And exhale. So you can land here, flex your foot, and then use your blocks because we're going to be holding and you want to have them for balance. So any height, whatever height that you need so that your spine can stay nice and long. Flex the foot, and this left hip is drawing back, so neutral hips here. All right. Staying nice and steady in your upper body, we're just going to isolate the movement in this leg. So we're going to, at the hip joint, we're going to start this motion at the hip joint. We're going to open the left toes towards the side, and then back up to center. And open them to the side, and back to center. You got 3 more. Open to the side, and to center, and to the side, and to center, and last one to the side, and then lift them back up. Now we'll stay here, and then we're going to bring both hands on the outside of this leg. So right arm's going to come up and over. Lengthen the spine. You'll continue to feel it in the hamstring. You should also feel it in the IT band as well. So another thing that happens when we're thinking about hamstring relief is that we focus all of our movement on just our hamstrings and all of our stretches just there. And it's important when you're trying to relieve muscles and strengthen muscles, both of them, that we work not just on the targeted muscles, but the muscles that surround it. So I talk about the muscles being up and down the chain. So that way they're getting stretched and strengthened, not just in isolation, but with the ones next to it. Because sometimes we might be feeling a little bit of tension in one place, but it actually is caused from something else, and it's just working up the chain and feeling the results or tension or stress there. So last breath. All right, then we're going to unwind. One hand back on each side of our left leg, or again on the mat. You can set the blocks to the side if you want to. Shifting your weight forward, bending into this left leg. We're gonna lift our right leg and then step forward for a forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway. Again, legs can be bent, hands on the shins. Exhale, fold. And then stand up. Arms sweep up. And hands to heart center. All right, take a breath. See how your left leg feels now. Does it feel as nice and loose as your right? All right, next thing we're gonna take is a wide leg forward fold. So come to face sideways on your mat. And I want your stance to maybe not be as wide as normal. So we wanna make sure that when we fold down that the top of our head is not on the mat. So we're not gonna be moving into any headstands or anything like that. We're focusing on just the legs today. So outside of feet is parallel to the outside of the mat. That may feel like just a little bit of internal rotation for you. Let's bring our hands to our hips to start with. Lengthen up, lift the ribs like you're trying to lift them up off of your hips, and then hinge forward, hinging down at the hips. And then release your hands down towards the mat. So you can bring your fingertips in line with your toes and then hinge forward. Shift your weight forward a little bit so the weight transfers more into the balls of your feet than the heels. And then again, your legs are about 99% straight. So they're not all the way straight. And then you can release your chest and your head. If you've got any tension in your head or neck, maybe shake your head around. And then we'll be here for a couple more breaths before we add a variation. So we'll be here for 3, 2, 1. Inhale, lift up about halfway, and then exhale, we're gonna reach for our big toes. So you can lasso each of your big toes with your peace fingers, and then bend your elbows. And I want you to think about elbows going wide to the front and back of your mat as you shift yourself down. So again, weight shifts towards the balls of your feet, release your head and neck. And if reaching your toes is not accessible, you can bring your hands to your shins instead. And we'll be here for 3, 2, 1. Inhale, we're gonna lift up halfway. Exhale, release your hands to your hips. Inhale, ride your breath the rest of the way up. And then exhale, step to the front of the mat again. Leaning back here in mountain pose. Take a breath before we move on. Exhale, release. And we're gonna move on to a pyramid pose. So step your right foot back to start with. So traditional yoga alignment is heel to heel. I find that that's not really accessible for many people, even a lot of advanced yogis. So I find your feet to be hips width apart to be much more comfortable and doable. So this right leg, you want this right foot at about a 45-ish degree angle. Some people prefer a little more, some people a little less, but I want you to find something that you can keep your hips neutral with. So if turning your foot out too much causes you to draw your right hip back, I want you to bring it back forward a little bit, okay? We're gonna bring our hands to our hips, lengthen our spine up, and then hinge forward about halfway down. So come down only as far as you can come with a flat back. And then I want you to see where your hips are in space. So proprioception is pretty hard here. So, if you have the advantage of a mirror or a videotape, how old am I? You can use your phone to snap a little video of yourself to see where you're at. But I want you to find these even hips. So shift your weight forward and back a little bit until you've got these nice even hips. And then stay there once you find that sweet spot. All right, you can keep your hands on your hips. If you feel like a little more support, you can grab your blocks, maybe put them on their highest height, and stay. We'll be here for just a few more breaths. When I think about grounding down into our feet, and then lifting up through our knees, so using our quad muscles to lift those up. And when you do that, you'll find a little bit more relief on the backside of your legs. Last breath. And we'll come out the way we came in. So hands to our hips, lift our chest up, and then step forward to the front of the mat. All right, take a breath. Exhale, release. And then other side. So left foot steps back. So again, you can have that heel to heel alignment like you're standing on a tightrope, or a little bit easier for most of us is feet at hips width apart. That foot's at about a 45-ish, so find that angle with your foot that your hips can be nice and neutral. Hands to your hips. Lengthen the spine up and then hinge forward with a flat back. Again, come only as far as you can go. Keep your back flat and then find where your hips are in space. So shift your weight forward and back until you find these nice neutral hips. And then if you'd like to, hands can come to blocks and we'll stay here. So I've got us staying with a flat back today. That's an option. Different styles of yoga take this pose differently. So like in Ashtanga, you would fold yourself all the way down. I'm just doing this today because we're focusing on our hamstrings and technique there instead of, the actual yoga poses themselves. So 2 more breaths. And coming back how we came in, hands to your hips, lift your chest up, and step forward to the front of the mat. All right, you can set your blocks to the side a little bit. They're in your way. And we're going to make our way onto our bellies. So inhale, send our arms up overhead. Exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, lift up halfway. And exhale, you can bend your knees if you need to. Bring your hands firmly down on the mat. And you're going to step back, find a plank pose. So plank pose, we're not going to be here long. You can always put your knees down if you want to. And then we're just going to bend our elbows, keep your elbows in towards your chest, and make our way all the way down onto our bellies. So once you're on your bellies, find the center of your mat. And you can stack your hands to start with. So we're going to take a couple of locust poses here. Those poses are great for strengthening our hamstrings and our glutes and really working this whole area of where these muscles connect. So we're going to focus just on the legs to start with. So you can stack your hands and rest your forehead on your hands if that feels good for you. I'm going to keep mine lifted just so you guys can hear me. So with your legs, you want a little bit of internal rotation. So think about lifting the inseams of your pants up towards the ceiling. So the top of your quads, top of your knees, top of your feet is on the mat. You're going to press your hips into the mat, lift up through the belly button. So lower back is nice and long. And then you're just going to lift your legs up off the mat. So legs can be about hips width apart. You don't want them flying too wide, and they don't have to be touching either because that can put a little bit of strain on the lower back for some people. We'll be here for 3, 2, 1. Release it down, and then just wag your tail from side to side to release. Take a breath. Exhale, release. We're going to do that twice more. This time we can add the arms to it if you want to. So hands can come behind you. You can do hands down on the mat or interlace behind you. We haven't done any shoulder opening, so this might be too much for you. So if this is, you can just do hands down on the mat, palms face down. So think about lengthening first. So lengthen toes to crown of head. And then again, press the hip points into the mat. Lift up through the belly button. Lift the legs. Lift the shoulders. And if you want to, lift the hands. And then to grow this pose a little bit, I want you to think lengthen first and then left. So that lengthening first just keeps us from creating any sort of crunch in our lower back. So we're going into it nice and safely. And again, working on strengthening our hamstrings here. Last breath. And then release down. If you want to, you can stack your hands. Bring your right cheek to the hands and wag your tail a little bit. Take a breath. Exhale, release. And we've got 1 more left. So our hands can come back again. If you did palms face down last time, maybe you want to do palms face up just to change it up. Again, find a little bit of length. And again, internal rotation of the legs. So inseams are coming up. Press the hips down. Belly button firms in. Hover the legs. Hover the shoulders. If you'd like to, hover the arms. Breathing here. So find your length and then use your hamstrings for a little more lift. We'll be here for 5, 4, you got it, 3, 2, 1. Release them down, stack your hands, and maybe this time left cheek comes to your hands and wag your tail just a little bit for relief. Take a breath, inhale. Exhale, release. All right, we're gonna make our way up to a seat. So you can just come up through a tabletop and then cross the ankles and send your legs through. We're gonna take a seated forward fold. So there's a couple options here. So you might wanna have your belt handy. So if you have a super tight hamstrings, I want you to use your belt and wrap it around the feet. So you can grab the balls of the feet or just underneath the balls of the feet, and you can keep your knees bent and your chest nice and long and straight. And this is where you get to start, okay? And after a few breaths here, you might find that you can walk or scoot your feet out just a little bit more. But I only want you to go as far as you can go, that you can keep your back nice and straight, shoulders are released, and you can still breathe very easily, okay? So sometimes people fold themselves down and they're fighting to get these nice long hamstrings, and they're really doing a little bit more damage. So if you have longer hamstrings, and you can flatten, not necessarily longer, but more limber hamstrings, and you can straighten your legs. Again, you want to straighten them, but not so much so that you're hyperextending them. So there's still going to be a little bit of space between your knees. You can reach for your toes or your shins. And again, keep the spine nice and long and then hinge forward. And instead of thinking about face down, I want you to think about chest down. So chest towards quads, and then elbows or forearms down towards the ground. Few more breaths here. For 3, 2, 1. Come up to a seat, and then we'll take a janu. So you can use your hand to help you grab your left knee, pull it back in. So it's like a half butterfly. So our left, the sole of our left foot is to the inside of our right thigh. Try to keep the hips square-ish. It's a little hard to do. Right foot is going to be flexed. Now you're going to take your left hand, take it gently across your right leg, twist a little bit to face this left leg, and then fold forward again. So same thing. Think about the center of your chest towards this right quad. So it's a little bit of a twist and a bit of a fold. A few more breaths here. For 3, 2, 1. Come back up through to center. And then we're going to take this right leg all the way out to the side. So I'm just going to spin to face you. So we're going to keep this left leg in this half butterfly. Right leg's going to come to the side. You may want to block for a little bit of support. So right forearm's going to come down on the inside of the right leg to the block or all the way to the ground. Left arm's going to sweep up, and you're going to lean over to the right. So keep these right ribs lifted and lean over. You got a little more flexibility. One of the things you can do is use your belt here. Loop this belt around this right foot. Same thing, right forearm down to the inside of the right leg, and then rotate up through this left shoulder and left elbow. Breathing here. For 3, 2, 1. If you have a hold of the belt, you can remove it from your foot, come up to a seat, and bring your right leg in. We'll take a butterfly pose. So both legs are in, spine is nice and long and straight. You can just tuck your chin. And then we'll repeat those 2 poses on the other side. So right leg is going to stay in. Just extend your left leg forward. Think about trying to keep the hips square-ish as you can. And then right leg is going to come across to the outside of this left leg. A little bit of a twist and then fold. So center of the chest towards this quad. Breathing here. We'll be here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, lift the chest up. And I'm going to take this leg out to the side. And again, you've got the option for the block. So the block can come onto the inside of your left leg. Left forearm to the block. Right arm sweeps up. And you lean over to the left. Keep the right shoulder and gaze up. And then again, if you've got a little more room to move, you can use your strap if you'd like to. Loop it around this left foot. Left forearm to the ground in front of the left leg. And then right elbow takes you up and gaze up. Maybe crawl your hand a little further forward if you've got the room. Breathing here. For 3, 2, 1. Releasing that. Removing your strap from around the foot. And then making your way onto your back. So our last guided stretch here is going to be a little bit of a hamstring stretch on our back with our belt. So you can loop the belt. You don't necessarily have to. You can just put your belt around the foot. And again, if you don't have a belt, you can just grab your leg. So grabbing your thighs, not your thighs, your shin. You can keep your foot flexed, or if you have the belt, you want to, you can do a little bit of a semi-point into the belt, and you'll feel that that really engages the muscles along the back side of the leg. So holding here. Breathing into it. Our left leg, we're not forgetting about it, so it's nice and active. The foot is flexed. Our spine is nice and long on the mat. We'll take a few more breaths here. You might find that you can begin to draw your leg towards your face just a little more. But again, being super gentle and kind to your body. We want to be showing our hamstrings some love. We don't want to be overstretching them, creating any tears or anything like that. Last breath here. And then you can release the belt, give the knee a little bit of a squeeze, and then send it long, and we'll do the other side. So left leg comes in, and again, if you've got the belt, you can put the belt around the ball of the foot. If you don't have the belt, just grab your leg anywhere along. Okay. And if you're using your belt, then maybe add a little bit of a point. So really press into the belt, and when you do that, the back of your legs are going to say hello. Keeping this right leg nice and active, so foot is flexed, leg is long, our spine is long here, and you should still be breathing. If you're finding a little more room, you can begin to pull your leg down towards your face, ever so gently. Few more breaths here. All right, and then nice and slowly release this belt and give your left knee a little squeeze. And then send it nice and long on the mat. And we'll end with a little bit of a shavasana. So legs are long, arms are long, palms face up. It's generally good, but if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. I want you to snuggle your shoulders underneath you so that your upper body is nice and supported. And then release tension through your core, through your hips, and through your legs. Take a nice deep breath in, inhaling all the way up. And exhaling, releasing. Let your inhales be nice and soothing. And let your exhales be relaxing. Allow the ground to support you here. You don't have to worry about holding anything in or any tension in your body. Just fully relax. and enjoy a few moments of peace. Now you've joined me for some hamstring relief and not so much for a guided Shavasana, but I encourage you to take as much as 5 or 10 minutes and enjoy a Shavasana. I hope that you found this video helpful and that your hamstrings are a little happier after going through it with me. Until next time.